Equity Week, a national week of reflection on issues of equity in resource distribution in Kenya, was this year held in various venues in Nairobi and Elgeyo Marakwet County. The week brought together individuals from academia, civil society, government, the arts community, development organizations, and citizens for a conversation about the promise of a more equitable development enshrined in Kenya's 2010 Constitution. Throughout the discussions during the events of the week, it became apparent that Kenyans understand the inequalities around them and are ready to discuss how equitable and fair distribution of resources can be done across the country. Therefore, national and county governments should open up discussions that promote conversation around understanding these inequalities and how to allocate resources fairly.
I think many a times speaking to people is taken very lightly. And one of the things that we've really been trying to do, and Equity Week is one of those, is actually to think about how can this conversation be structured in a way that everyone can contribute into the discussion of how we reach some level of equity as we go. And so opening up that discussion to more people gives you more ideas about how to deal with it. And I think over time that will become very central in this country, especially with devolution, because we are supposed to be having these discussions between government and citizens, between citizens and non-state actors, like where IBP sits. And I think for me the biggest one is just to open up that space, open up the space of how CRA makes its decision around its formula, open up the space about how the national government makes its decision around how to distribute infrastructure programs across the country.
Report of the CKRC short version, the People's Choice. This was reporting on the draft that we had produced after very wide consultations with the people. At one stage I summarized 13 main points that I had drawn from the people. The first one was, people said, give us a chance to live a decent life with the fundamental needs of food, water, clothing, shelter, security, and basic education met by your own efforts and the assistance of the government. They weren't asking for free things, they were said by your own efforts. We want a fair system of access to land for the future and justice for the wrongs of the past. So they were asking for justice, not just getting gifts. Let us have more control over the decisions which affect our lives, bring government closer to us, and let us understand better the decisions we can't make ourselves, but which affect us deeply. Just don't decide for us, discuss with us. We do not want power concentrated in the hands of one person. We want our MPs to work hard, respect us and our views, and the power to kick them out if they don't. We want to be able to choose leaders who have qualities of intelligence, integrity, and sensitivity which make them worthy of leading us. We want an end to corruption. We want police who respect citizens and who can be respected by them. We want women to have equal rights and gender equity. We want children to have a future worth looking forward to, including orphans and street children. We want respect and decent treatment for the disabled. We want all communities to be respected and free to observe their cultures and beliefs. We assert our rights to hold all sections of a government accountable, and we want honest and accessible institutions to ensure this accountability. Now that's the big agenda, and it came from the people. Now if you have, I hope all of you have read the Constitution, you will find these certain things recurring again and again. It wasn't something that we got out of our own minds. We were responding very much to what people told us.
I would start by saying a quote by Anthony T. Higgs. Okay? So Anthony said, when you are at loss of words, you draw a picture. Right? And so I think when we can discuss inequalities here today, we can talk about, agreeing, disagreeing, what inequality means, whether that is equality or, whatever, or that's the best way to address inequality. But when we're at the end of, we've, exhausted the discussion, we can draw a picture and say, well, this is how it looks like.
Such deliberations should be anchored on available data and be based on the basic principles of equity to ensure resolutions made are not only technically sound, but also seen to be done in a fair way.
Sometimes not taken very seriously. The fact that the citizens actually come and speak to the issues and the needs they have is already an indicator that water is a problem in this ward, security is a problem in this ward, malnutrition is a problem in this ward. But then counties also have an opportunity, and they do, of combining what the people say with the data they have, whether from the national government, through the KNBS, or even by generating. And you remember one of the conversations was, can counties start actually generating their own data? And also working with other partners who are collecting. So I think that's the first point of counties actually coming into concerted efforts to establish what is the need level.
As we have these discussions, and as we think of policies that we can apply as counties, so that we make sure we are addressing the inequalities that exist within counties, there are certain general good practices that we have to keep in mind. Regardless of the approach that you take, it has to be done through a fair process. Even if you come up with the best formula in the world, and you come up with one that produces the best, makes sure everyone has everything, if the process by which you arrived at that mechanism of distribution is not seen to be fair, then you're in trouble. We are now working on our CIDPs, 2017 to 2022. Is that process inclusive? Is that process open?
One of the challenges of achieving equitable distribution of resources is the scarcity of resources and gaps in the mechanisms used to share what is available. Governments are faced with the challenge of ensuring that the little that is available benefits all its citizens and across the country. On this front, governments need to involve their citizens in identifying potential solutions to the inequalities in their localities, and such data can then be used as a basis for planning.
By and large, I think it's like we're in agreement that Jesume is red.
In terms of water?
In terms of water.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, we are looking at the general development. It's like we are agreeing. Because we have started with the roads, I mean, health center, health facilities. Now we are looking at the water. The roads we were
it is only roads that was fairly.
Yeah, but now we have two sectors that we are feeling that they were poorly done. Meaning, by and large, it was red.
Nandi Hills.
Yes. The board has been. Nandi Hills that is fair. Everything. Yes, everything.
Lakini mostly done by the estates, but that's the government.
Okay. Health is the same, right?
Yes.
So what is developed there?
It's in between. It's better than this.
But I think West Pokot in the last 5 years.
Where we have military trainings is here. At the border, and here. But not within Samburu County, not even here.
Not even here.
Nanyuki is here, almost near Isiolo than Mara. So here we have Batu. It's here in Achas, somewhere here. This place is actually a bit big. The county is large, but then they are just dispatched so far from each other that it becomes
were also a bit difficult.
What is your headquarters?
Here.
Okay, so no development even around the headquarters.
Just some little interested farmers. Have been told.
The status of roads, water, health facilities.
We don't really have, we don't have any. This is the only
There's
road
only
we
road.
have.
Yeah.
And this is going to Ethiopia. So it's just passed by chance. In terms of hospitals, we have only two major hospitals. This is one here which was built by missionaries, and the referral hospital at the county headquarters. Here, this is another constituency, there is no any hospital. This is Baragwe, this is where Baragwe is. Water, we only have one dam here, and it's not really big. Sometimes the water levels can go low, and Maralal, where the county headquarters is, can lack water for months.
So it's the rest, like water, the whole county.
This is Samburu County. You can see we've painted entirely red. Yeah, we are asking for 50 shades of red, but we couldn't get. So just to paint where Samburu County is, we border Turkana on the upper side, Marsabit, Isiolo, Laikipia, and Baringo. We have 3 constituencies in Samburu. We have Samburu West, where the county headquarters is. This is where Maralal is. We have Samburu North. Baragwe is famously known here. We have Samburu East, where Wamba is, Wamba sub-county. We have 0% tarmac road. As you can see, there's no road at all. Luckily, Lapset passed here from Isiolo through going to Marsabit. So this is the only place you can say a road is tarmacked in Samburu County by luck or something. The entire place is not tarmacked. A road was recently launched here that's supposed to go to Maralal, but it was launched by first Moi, Kibaki, and recently Uhuru also launched. So we don't know who will ever implement it. In terms of healthcare, we have only 2 main hospitals. Wamba Mission Hospital, which was built by missionaries, and Maralal Referral Hospital, poorly equipped. This is the government-owned hospital. This is much better because it's owned by missionaries. Right now, the county government has a little share. In Baragoi, we don't have an hospital at all. Here, actually, this is where we border Tiati. For Baringo people, we border Tiati constituency here. And on the other side, we border Turkana, a lot of cattle rustling and all that. We have 16 wards. This little green here is a ward called Losuk Ward and Poro Ward, where agriculture happens. And this is where we have a little water, but not piped or anything, just by God's own ways. We have streams and rivers. We only have one dam in Maralal that supplies water to the county headquarters that was constructed during the colonial times. The county government recently launched another dam, and that's the only water we have. Other parts, there's no borehole, there's really nothing. So Samburu County is definitely just red. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are from Nandi County, and we would wish to give an impression of how our county looks like. So Nandi County has 6 constituencies, and that's why you can see the boundaries. We have Mosop, Chesumei, Mgwen, Aldai, we have Nandi Hills, and Tinderet constituency. What you can see is that around the center, we have a lot of green dominating, because that is where the county headquarters is around. So most of the facilities around are available around the headquarters. And towards the peripheries, that is in Mosop, Tinderet, and some parts of Chesumei, we have a lot of red, meaning that there's a lot that needs to be done towards the end. So generally, we can see that what is dominant in Nandi County is red, because it's available in 3 constituencies. And then we have black in 1 constituency and green in 2 constituencies. So that means that Nandi County still needs to have a lot of focus in terms of distribution of resources.
So in West Pokot, we have 20 wards. We have tried to break it down to the 20 wards. Okay, in terms of constituencies. In terms of constituencies, we have 4 constituencies. That is North Pokot, and then we have Central Pokot, Pokot South on this side, and then West Pokot, that is Kapenguria constituency. Well, in terms of colors, you can see the whole county is predominantly red. That's the entire North Pokot, and then almost half of Central Pokot. And then the county headquarters is located just down here next to Trans Nzoia, that is Kapenguria, and that's where we have some green. The surrounding parts is a mixture of both green and black, denoting some developments, a mixture of least that is fairly developed and developed. So that's what's surrounding the area of Kapenguria. So the entire county is predominantly red, as you can see. Thank you.
The discussion needs to happen from the lowest level possible, whether at the ward or even village level, all the way to the national level. The discussion should be open for everyone in and outside and not limited to technical persons in the society.
There's need for a serious dialogue about what is priority. And that requires the ability to be able to have a political conversation, to be able to give trade-offs about what is not that it is not important, but this is a question of prioritizing, so that we are saying we can do a dispensary there, but for that other ward, what we need is not a dispensary, but actually is to employ doctors and nurses, and that is of priority. But in that other ward, actually the water project is of priority, because what we are seeing is this kind of mass equal distribution kind of conversation, and that was it came out in Elgeyo Marakwet, where they were saying that most of the interventions have been dividing money equally across wards, and therefore, of course, what that means is that when you give a ward in the city and a ward deep in the rural area the same amount of money, the priorities are different.
So how are we going to get from where we started to where we want to go if we don't discuss these things? And I started by saying this is not a highly technical subject because that's often the answer. Well, it's a highly technical subject, so we leave it to policymakers. I do not believe that that is correct. And the motivation behind Equity Week is that these are not highly technical conversations. There are conversations that require us to engage with data and numbers and policy. And that is something that the university is well placed to help us to support. But that does not make them highly technical. We can all participate in these conversations.
As we go forward, there is need to keep opening up the space and making the discussion a bit more public, so that you have more views and people can better understand the decisions that are being made that are supposed to address the inequalities that affect them. Because the inequalities affect the poor in Kibra, affect the poor somewhere in Nyalenda, in Kisumu. So if you're going to help those people, why not involve them in the discussion? And they can have that discussion.
The reality is that the debate over equity is not something that can or should be confined to a week. It is an issue that the Constitution demands happen in all government processes as key decisions are taken about sharing national resources. These negotiations may not conclusively put an end to inequality, but would go a long way in ensuring that everyone has ownership of whatever mechanisms of resource sharing that will be put in place.
As much as we have equitable formula of taking these resources downwards, what is the best process? How do we take it? Because we can still say we want to take development to every corner of the world, and eventually we take 100,000 to every village, and that 100,000 is not even enough to construct a water tank. So as much as we are discussing that we need to distribute resources equitably, then to what level should we do it? Should we spread thin? Should we target a small one project in the world? And again, we target where in the world that will, or which project that will make everyone feel devolution or feel these resources.
I have 2 quick questions, and I especially would like Elgeyo Marakwet to share the experience on this. When we speak about equity, we know when it comes to budget work, the county assembly plays a critical role of approving budgets. So how did Elgeyo Marakwet come to convince members of county assembly to pass an equity law that would, because in our county in Baringo, the executive is having challenge to convince the county assembly that there is need for equity law that would see some counties, some wards receive lesser allocation as to what they are receiving currently. So that's the big impediment. And then the second question is, as counties, how do we prepare citizens to appreciate the place of equity in good governance? For example, are we disseminating the data that we are talking about here in terms of access to water, access to education, and so on and so forth?
That how did we convince the county assembly to come up with or to pass the Equitable Development Act? And I actually want to say that this is an act which started from the county assembly. It was sponsored by the former member of county assembly of Kaptarakwa ward, and it came as a result of an equal distribution of resources from our first financial year. When we did our budgets, 2013-2014 financial year, we realized that we could not balance the county the way it is required because, one, we were new and we didn't have all the information about these counties. So my suggestion is that what needs to be done is the county executive, county assembly, together with the citizens of the county should sit down, identify their needs in a roundtable meeting. And I believe what we've done today is actually what we should be taken to the next level. The charts which we painted today, I think that should be the starting point. Let the citizens, the members of county assembly, the governor and all the executive sit down, waweke, they prioritize areas which need development in the county. And then from there, because I believe even without the act, so long as the three teams, the citizens, the executive and county assembly sit together, they will be able to come out with a very nice way of ensuring that there is equity in the county. I think another thing is how do we let the members of public appreciate equity? And I must say that there are a number of challenges because as much as we try to ensure that there is equity, there are also those people who are, or their needs which will not be catered for. And for example, Elgeyo Marakwet, the biggest challenge we've been having is, why is it that Elgeyo Marakwet doesn't have big projects like other counties? And that comes as a result of trying to ensure that there is equity at the expense of flagship projects. Because I think when you look at other counties, they've done big projects, but Elgeyo Marakwet, we've tried to reach every corner, and that thinly spreading has affected the flagship projects. So I think there is a lot of, we need to have a lot of engagements so that it reaches a point that even the members of public are the ones who prioritize flagship project rather than every village having their own project.